it didn't work. We couldn't get the tech going. I'm 12 years in IT and I still couldn't do it. But we tried today and it just worked first time. But we're late today because we were talking. And then I've just looked up and I've seen that we're late. But hello everyone, my name's Amy. I'm the dietist. I'm a nutritionist, and I help people with their digestive health. Digestive health issues feel much better. And I am here today with Anne Pemberton, who is an awesome human being. She is a nurse. She's also my old teacher. So Anne taught me when I did my nutritional diploma back in, I think it was about 2010. It was ages ago. It was ages ago. And so Anne was a nurse, and then you're a holistic practitioner, you're a nutritionist, what aren't you? Is that easier?
Kind of nurse, psychologist, functional medicine practitioner, but then I have a few other modalities more kind of on the energy side. So Nest Health I do, live blood cell analysis I do, core expansion energies I do. So and heart math, I'm a heart math coach. So I kind of bring all of that in, really.
Yeah, you are there. I always say when I describe you to people, like, what this woman doesn't know, no one does. I remember when you used to teach me, and you used to start talking about sometimes about your son and some of the things that you have done to, help people's health and stuff. And we used to go away at the end of our class and meet up at the pub, like any good nutritionists would, when we were staying over at the weekends and in Trowbridge. And we would talk about it for ages because it's absolutely fascinating. So I'm really happy you're on. But anyway, enough about that. Anne is here today because she has suffered from, or is suffering on her way, it's on its way out, but from COVID-19. And Anne kindly went live on her page the other day. It was a few days ago, wasn't it? Or was it just before the weekend? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think about the 4th day, so it would have been sometime last week, first off.
Yeah. There isn't really a lot, no one's saying a lot about it. No, people sort of say if you show symptoms, then don't go out. But then if you go on, and we were just discussing this, if you go on the .gov website, it basically gives you a list of 4 symptoms, and they're not always what people experience, or or that if a person's suffering COVID-19 and their symptoms are milder, then they might think because they haven't got any of those particular symptoms, then they're okay. So it's all a bit crazy at the moment. No one really knows. So Anne is kind of going to come on and tell us a little bit about her story and how it all started. So Anne, over to you.
Thanks, Amy, and thanks for that lovely introduction. Bless your heart. Okay, so I'm 10th day today, and to be honest, because we're all on sabbatical right now, I've forgotten what day it is. I've just kind of got my head in the computer. Tuesday, yes. So I guess my issues would have started probably a week last Sunday. And I didn't even notice anything, to be honest. I was thirsty all day. I was drinking gallons, which is really unusual for me because I forget to drink most of the time. And then Monday, I was in clinic all day. Thankfully, my patients were all on Skype because it was it was when we were social distancing. And the thirst got worse and worse during the day. Up until about 3 o'clock, and then I had a really dry throat, and I started to have a bit of a cough. Wasn't major. I'd actually said to one of my healers a couple of weeks ago, I was asked if I was prepared for the COVID-19 virus, because there were some gurus doing little Facebook, well, maybe not Facebook lives, but little webinars saying what we could do to prepare for it. And I just looked and said, I'm not going to get it. Plain and simple. It's not mine. Whoa, how to get caught out in a storm. So on this Monday in clinic, I started to feel, I started to get worse and worse with the thirst. And then suddenly I was overcome with this insane exhaustion, brain, body exhaustion. And I have experienced similar before, because the reason I came into this was due to chronic fatigue. So I do know what it's like to be exhausted. And this was very similar. It came on all of a sudden. There was no warning, nothing. I came home a little bit earlier, and by 6 o'clock, I was absolutely racked from head to foot with pain, muscle pain, predominantly shoulders, back of the neck, up the occiput, the back of the head. And my head just wouldn't function. So that was in the space of about 3 hours those symptoms came. And as I said, there was no warning before that, other than this thirst that came the day before. So I started to look around at what people were actually doing. And I went straight to Dr. Sarah Myhill's site, because Sarah is a really, really excellent GP. She's a lovely little eccentric lady who just knows the stuff inside out. And I adore her. And I have a lot of respect for her, because she's very out there for her patients. And so I just looked at her protocol, and I looked at a few of the others, and I looked at the evidence base, because I needed to work quickly. I had nothing in the cupboard at all, because, as I said, I wasn't going to get this. So I was scraping around in the cupboards, and I found some 2 years out of date ascorbic acid crystals, which thankfully were from a really good company. So I thought, do you know what? 2 years out of date, I've got nothing else. I've got to try. To heck with the date, you know. Shows you how often I clean my cupboards out. So I got that out of the cupboard. I was also taking some nascent iodine, because my iodine levels had been low. So, and I only had a little bit of that left as well. So Sarah was saying, right, you need vitamin C to bowel tolerance, and you need the iodine in a little, what do we call these? Salt inhalers. So in this, whoops, get it in front of the mirror. So inside this is Himalayan pink salt. It's got a little ledge about there. So your salt goes in the bottom. And then, as you can see from the colour, you put a couple of drops of iodine in there, and then you're snorting it. Bless us. So the idea is to dose your salt, is to find your level of bowel tolerance with the vitamin C. And then to take that as often as you need, well, to find your level of bowel tolerance, and then to split that dose between the number of hours that you've got to awaken. And then you either need to dose hourly or 2 hourly. That's what Sarah's saying. I can manage 2 hourly, but just being governed by a clock every hour just would drive me nuts. So I did mine 2 hourly. So I found my dose, got the vitamin C in. And then I would say by about the 4th day, I was really showing symptoms. What happened with the vitamin C was it was helping with all the aches and pains. So with this condition, what the gurus are saying is the aches and pains are from a cytokine storm. So the virus comes in, the immune system sees it as an invader. It sets off an immune reaction, which then sets off loads of cytokines coming out into the body. They create the inflammation, because, of course, we need inflammation to help the body to heal. But then that inflammation, because this virus is new, because there's a lot of it at the moment, and because it's so virulent in the way that it attacks you, then you've got a massive, what we call cytokine storm, which makes all the pain. So the vitamin C, the idea of getting that up to bowel tolerance, is to get all this pain out of the body. So that's what I was doing. The iodine, that's domestos to me. And I love the phrase domestos, kills 99% of household germs, as the adverts say. Well, the iodine kills 99% of germs on contact, and depending on the percentage of iodine in your liquid, well, that determines how quickly or how long it takes to kill those germs. So this is why Sarah's saying it has to be inhaled. So did those, and then about the 4th day, I started to notice there were other symptoms. And because I'd been dosing up, I didn't really notice these symptoms arising. So what was happening on a morning in those first 4 days was, because I couldn't dose overnight with either of those two, I would get up in the morning and the chest was just so tight. But it was the same on the day I came home. And I've had pneumonia twice, so I know that tight feeling of the pneumonia. So that was another reason I said, well, there's no doubt this is not COVID. No doubt about it. Because I think if I hadn't have done what I've done, I would have transferred into pneumonia very quickly. So I'm quite happy about what I have done. So yeah, in the first 4 days, I was just kind of bumbling along. Loads of chest tightness, having to keep dose up, loads of head, neck, shoulder pain. And every time I let the dose go down, or I didn't take it in time, or I didn't take enough, because some days I needed a bit more than others. And each time I didn't hit the dose, I would be in pain again. So it was very kind of all over the place. And I was trying hard to try and get myself to a place where I could actually do things, because even though we're on sabbatical, we've still got things to do to keep our businesses running. So I was trying to do that. And then on day 4, I realised that actually my sinuses were a mess. All my face was, it wasn't puffy, but it felt like there was loads and loads of swelling in the sinuses. And at that point, I ran out of nascent iodine, but I had some iodine on order and I could only get Lugol's. Now, Lugol's is the iodine that people would recommend for this, particularly Sarah. She's recommending 15%. For me, when I changed over to the Lugol's, it was very different in how it worked from the nascent. So the nascent iodine didn't have a really strong iodine taste. So I could have literally put the bottle into the salt pot and not smelt an awful lot of it.
Mm.
Whereas with the Lugol's 15%, I put 4 drops in thinking that would be fine. And when I sniffed it, I couldn't do anything for the next 4 hours because it just went into my sinuses. It was so sore and prickly. My eyes won't work. My head won't work. I probably could have taken some vitamin C to mop up, the free radicals. But I didn't think about it because my head had already gone. And so I was just kind of living with that for the next few days, 2 or 3 days again. But that became a big symptom. And then over the course of the next few days, I kind of worked out, actually, you could do a bit more vitamin C here and that might help. So I increased vitamin C to get me through that, because I think 2 things happened there. I think, I got a load of virus that I wasn't getting before, and maybe some other bacteria that was up there. Who knows? Because we harbour loads up here in the sinuses, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
So I think I probably got a load of bugs that I hadn't got before. But also I think the iodine was incredibly strong, and I think it was an irritant as well. So since then I've actually cut down the dose, and I just put the iodine in the pot as soon as I can't smell it anymore and just do 1 to 2 drops, and that's fine now. But it was working out those couple of days, that was the issue. So so that would have took me to about day 7, which is when I think I did the Facebook Live, just to try and help people along with this. And I've just told them what's happened to me, and then they can make their own decisions. So I've just carried on with the dosing, carried on with the iodine pot. I'm expecting to have to do this for 14 to 23 days, because that's the kind of time span we've got for the virus at the moment. Because as you said quite rightly, Amy, no one knows anything about it yet. We're all on the front line trying. But I can honestly say to you, at this point in time, if I have enough vitamin C and if I have enough iodine going on, I can function. I'm writing at the minute, or editing my book, and I'm managing to do that. I couldn't do anything really physical, because if I start to expend energy, I'm going to make free radicals and cytokines, and that's going to mean even more vitamin C. So I'm quite happy just to sit here. And then when I'm not writing, I'm resting. And I think you have to do that, because this virus just knocks you for 6 otherwise. But I think probably at this point in time, I might have a false sense of feeling good, if that makes sense, just because of what I'm doing. But I don't want to go back, because even today, I've dosed up really well this morning, so I could do this with you this afternoon. But I guarantee if I went over the time span where I need the vitamin C again, I'll be back to square one, and I'd have to up the dose again to get rid of the symptoms. I think from how I feel generally, the iodine is helping massively, because the sinuses were really blocked the other day. And the day when I made the mistake with the 4 drops, I went to bed that night and I slept for 9 hours solid, really deep sleep. And I woke up the best I've ever woken up. And I even got on Facebook Live that day and said, I've turned the corner. Might have been a bit premature, because the next day I was flawed again. But that's the nature of the beast with this thing. But in the last couple of days, I really have turned the corner. I know I've turned the corner because the sinuses are not blocked anymore. I'm not getting up on the morning and coffee moving up, as it were. I'm not getting the tight chests anymore. So, there is a lot of progress there. I'm masking other symptoms as a result of, the vitamin C dose. But, beyond that, everything is fine. So, yeah, I'm just expecting another week of this, and then, hey presto. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's it's good to actually, if you need to get that, you can, by the way.
All right.
It's like... Is that your son? Yeah.
Can you cut that?
Life happens, doesn't it? Yeah, because there is, that is really useful, because I've been, as a nutritionist also, like, I've been scouring the internet trying to find information, and I haven't really found anything that, gives you a decent enough complete picture of what you might be dealing with. There's bits and bobs here and there about what it is, how we catch it, how it connects to our body, but then after that it's all a little bit, so it's really, and because we're not really seeing a lot of information about what's happening, and how people are feeling. It's really hard for us to know what to do. And as we were saying before, we're told to, rightly so, stay at home if we're experiencing symptoms. But some people might just wake up with a little bit of a sore throat and kind of think, well, that's okay, or perhaps just a little bit of a headache, and then put it down to not having any caffeine yet that day. It's just the list of information that we've got, and it is because I suppose there is a lot of unknowns, but the list of information that the average Joe, us, the public, have to go on isn't very comprehensive and not very helpful. So it has been really. I'm glad that I saw that when I saw you post that you were going to go live about your symptoms. I was like, people need to know this. People need to know this. Because people. I know I'm getting paranoid every time I get so much of a little scratch in my throat. I'm like, am I ill? It's, and then I'm fine. So
I think it's quite interesting, Amy, because I think the fear factor is huge in all of us, isn't it? And the media are just blowing this out of all proportion. And I'm not saying this is not a serious disease, because it doesn't feel nice when you've got all the symptoms. I can honestly say that to you. But I think, I forgot what I was going to say then. I think, the fear factor is the thing that kills people, because, that's our primal instinct, isn't it? To feel fear so we can get away from the saber-toothed tiger. That's what we're supposed to do in an evolutionary sense. So to put a load of fear, to put community fear in there, well, everybody's going to fear getting it. And then to spread it all out all over media, the numbers, the figures. Yeah, I know we need to see that, and I know we're watching them in terms of where we are in relation to other countries. But for some of us who are the really sensitive types, that will just put us into a real fear bracket. I think for me, because I've had a near-death experience with pneumonia before, and because it's still really vivid because it's only 3 years ago, I think for me, the fear was a tough one as all the information was coming through from China, the USA, etc. But then as the virus got me, it was almost like I've been here before, it's fine. You know,
Yeah.
I've come through it before.
Got the t-shirt, hit me.
Yeah, just, do you know what? If I'm meant to stay here and I'm meant to continue the work I'm doing, then I'll get immunity. I'm in the first wave. And interestingly, Dr. Downing, who I know you know I used to work with, bless his heart, his PAs were emailing me about something else, test results for their patients that I'd run some bloods on. And they were just kind of going backwards and forwards. And one of them had watched the Facebook Live. And then she'd obviously fed back to him. And the next minute, I got a lovely email saying, "Congratulations, you're in the first wave of immune."
It's not the thing you thought you'd be cheering about, is
Yeah.
it?
It's like, he didn't even ask how I was, but that's him. You know, he's so lovely and he just makes light work of everything. And it's like, yeah, your first wave of immunity. I just love how he just puts it across. Bless his heart.
Yeah. So we've got a couple of people watching, but I just wanted to say if anybody has any questions, then please do ask them. I know, I know people probably do have any, and after we've finished going live, if people have questions, pop them below, and I will see to get them answered. But yeah, thanks for coming on, Anne. What would you advise? What would your advice be to somebody who has COVID-19?
I think I would go straight to Sarah Myhill's little video,
Okay.
and she's called it coronavirus. She puts little videos up regularly, and I would go to that to know exactly what to do. But I'd also bear in mind there are some people who can't do this. There are certain people who can't tolerate a high dose of vitamin C beyond 25 milligrams a day. And they're people with something called G6PD deficiency. The type 1 diabetics couldn't do it because it interferes with their blood sugar on monitors. The people who've got a lot of oxalates, so anybody who has kidney stones, lots of kidney infections, lots of urine infections, they need to be really careful, because as you acidify the urine with the vitamin C, you can be more prone to those kind of things, so you don't want to exacerbate any of that. And the other people who probably need to be careful are people who've got thyroid, underactive thyroid, who are on thyroid medications, because there's a lot of iodine in the thyroid medication. So if you overdose with thyroid, you can actually knock thyroid management off, because the thyroid is like every other organ. You have to keep it between a certain category of, you know, what's acceptable for it to work optimally. So if you haven't got enough iodine, you're underactive, and if you've got too much iodine, you're underactive as well. And so you have to keep it in that balance. And so taking too much of Lugol's iodine could be a major problem for them too. So they might want to decide, actually, this is not the approach for me. So they're the warnings I would give, to be honest. Okay. And we have no evidence at all, because I've combed all the research, to say whether this is safe in pregnancy or when breastfeeding. So again, you know, the optimum or the maximum dose for breastfeeding is 1,000 milligrams. So again, I don't think I would do this in that instance. I think if you're breastfeeding, you've just got to hope that you're immune, because the NHS are saying that those kind of people are unlikely to get it because of how the immune system works at that point in time. And I think if you're pregnant, the only thing you can do is, you know, call the 911 COVID line and see what they suggest, because I don't think I would want to do this if I was pregnant.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Anne.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, so that's really useful. We've got no questions at the moment, but I can see people are watching. So if anybody has got any questions, post them below. We'll also get the Sarah Myhill video posted below as well. And Anne, if anyone wants to get hold of you, what's the best way to do it?
Well, my website, if
Mhm.
which is www.pemberton.co.uk. That's the easiest way.
Just gonna do some two-finger typing. .co.uk
Bless your heart.
and Pemberton.co.uk. Done it.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
popping that in there, popping that in the notes, and hopefully that will pop up. If it doesn't, then I'll put it in later. Come on, technology, you can do it. All right. Thank you so much, Anne. Thanks for joining us today. It's been really, really useful. I think it gives people a little bit of a view of what it's like, what to expect, and obviously some tools in which, you know, if they suit them, that they can go ahead and they can consider and do a little bit of research. So yeah, thank you. Thanks ever so much. I'm gonna let everybody go, and yeah, thanks ever so much, and we'll speak to you soon.
All right, take care. Thanks.